What do you say? What do you say? Who's the first person that can hear me today? Who's the first person that says audio good, lighting good, attitude good?
We're going to do anything more with this Christian Wilkins?
I don't think so. I mean, because someone said they might have heard that someone said he kissed someone on his head. Um,
How about Courtney and Sutton? Is that a big deal?
no. Why?
No, it's all over the Twitter. That's why I was wondering. He signed with Denver. If you want anything for Graham for the Open, write it down.
You're listening to the JT the Brick Show,
Hey.
where the Raider Nation has come to
If you want anything for Graham, write it down. I'll
over
load
20
it.
years.
It's the JT the Brick Show, broadcasting live from the Finley Cadillac Performance Studio.
Raiders bring a blitz. He takes up off the middle, and he's wrapped up from behind. Max Crosby
Your silver and black home to sound off for over 20 years.
opens at the 35, racing to the 20, 10, touchdown Raiders.
And now, here's JT the Brick.
Out of the gate, welcome to a new week on the flagship of the Silver and Black, Raider Nation Radio, 9:20 a.m. And on that glorious Raiders mobile app. Hopefully everybody's doing well today. We have a big show. Today was the first day in pads for the Silver and Black, which we were happy about. A spirited day. If you're following me before the show on X, I put out a video every day as I walk out of there. And all pretty good today. Nothing crazy to report on. Saw a bunch of touchdowns, deep throws, good rotations with corners on defense. Studied the linebackers today for an extended period of time. The fans are out there in big support. Big support. So good to see the fans out there, and there'll be another fan day again tomorrow. So if you get a chance to come, or if you're in Vegas, you should be going. There's a lot of Raider fans that don't live in Vegas that are going to miss camp, and I wish you would have been at this one because this one's noticeably different. It's really unique, and that's the focus of the monologue. Brought to you by Golden Entertainment. They fuel the monologue. 5 to 7, midnight to 2, the best happy hour in town. I was at Sierra Gold at one point over the weekend having a beverage with a friend of mine who was in town. So we love that. Anytime we can mention Golden Entertainment and PTs, we thank them for their continued support. You know, first day in pads is always interesting. I was talking to James Jones, former Raider receiver, who was out here today doing the Raiders training camp show with Amber Theo Harris. And we were wondering if there'd be a skirmish, a fight, you know, because this what happens when you have the first practice in pads. You know, for weeks leading up to that, everybody has a day or plays better against another guy. And they all say, wait till we get in pads, and I'm going to get you back. Wait till we get in pads. You're not going to be able to run free without me hitting you, and it can get pretty intense. I didn't see any of that today. I just saw a team that really gets along well, a team that knows that they're not screwing around. There's no stupidity here. They're just really focused to come out, stretch, warm up, and go right to their first drills and their first, segment of the practice. Very professional. Not that they weren't very professional in the past, but got to remember, going back to last year in Costa Mesa, the team would have to get on a bus from the West End. They'd have to go to the fields that weren't great. They didn't really have much of a locker room, right? And they didn't have a swimming pool right there. They didn't have their weight room 20 yards away. It just wasn't conducive for great football. I understand why we went to Costa Mesa. The brand of the Raiders is huge in Southern California, but fans weren't allowed to go, very limited. And they did it, and they did it for the cooling down of the weather and some bonding stuff. And again, I don't have a problem with that. The practices weren't very good because the offense couldn't get anything going. And as I've reported just what I've seen and talking to others, it really seems like everything is much more focused and faster. The practices are really clean is the word that I would use. There are mistakes. Maybe a player jumps offside or there's a drop ball, which I haven't saw many. But overall, it's just run very effectively. From Pete Carroll, who's run more practices than most in this league, and he just knows how to go from drill to drill, what to do. And I'm noticing a calmness in the players really enjoying it. The weather's been pretty easy on him. It hasn't been 112, 115. So when they're practicing before it gets to 100, the weather's nice. There's not a cloud in the sky. The fans are there to pump them up. They're coming from their own locker room, driving their own cars, the veterans to practice. Their families are there. The kids, they have a family section. It's just a better place to be. And Pete Carroll has it gelling well. So, and when I watched today, DeCamerion Richardson and Jacorian Bennett and Jeremy Chin and Christopher Smith II, and I'm watching the linebackers who are trying to get, who's running with the ones and twos. I'm watching this because I think there's going to be a lot of variety with this lineup. I think there's going to be certain plays when Jamal Adams is in on second down on a running play, and he's going to be up near the line of scrimmage to make a tackle. I think there are going to be times where a cornerback might be a starter but is subbed out, possibly for a nickel back, or another safety comes in, because I just think this is going to be a better scenario to coach the players who are specifically better on down and distance. And I wanted to spend some time talking about the linebackers today, because the linebackers are really good and experienced. They just got to be healthy. Remember, we had Denzel Perryman a couple of years ago, and we got a couple of good years out of him. It reminds me of this now. Like, these are the linebackers, if you line them up right on the field, and Landon Robertson, you have White on, lined up correctly, they're going to know where the ball is. And they're going to get to the ball, and they're going to tackle well and try to strip the ball. But it comes down to the defensive line. So Adam Schefter reported earlier today on the Pat McAfee show. I'm not going to play it, but he's talking about Christian Wilkins and why he was dropped, and did he allegedly kiss a teammate on the forehead or the head in chest, and did that player report him to the team? I don't know anything about that. That's not, if you're looking for me for that information, I don't know what you've been listening to. I don't do the gossip and this and that and what happened to the player and who's talking crap about a player in the locker room. That has never been my beat. My beat is running a fast-paced radio show and putting Raider fans on the radio, live on our YouTube channel at JT the Brick YT, try to motivate the fans to go to games, and then I analyze the games after they win or lose. That's what I do. I think we do it better than anybody. And we have good people on. Today I have Deshawn Reed, who's going to come on. Mark Anderson's going to come on, and Dan Graziano from ESPN, NFL Insider. Boom, we're done. We got a good show. We got people who go to practice and talk football. I don't get involved in the gossip of Christian Wilkins. But what I can tell you about Christian Wilkins is that nobody that I've talked to in the organization, and I talked to a bunch, no player, no one that I know in the organization cares that he's gone. He's gone. Everybody has moved on like he wasn't there. Now, I like the player. I thought he's a great player. Man, if he's healthy and he's not off the team and he's not injured, wow, we got a Pro Bowl defensive tackle who can win games. Nobody cares today. Nada. Nobody is talking about Christian Wilkins other than the national media that's looking for something to stir and looking for a story. That's it. So if I would tell you, man, is everybody talking about Christian Wilkins? I'd say, yeah, a couple of guys were this and that. Nobody. And no one misses him. And now, do I think he was a bad teammate in the locker room? I have no idea. Could it be true that he kissed someone on the head in jest, a teammate, and the teammate was offended and went to HR or whatever? I don't know. Maybe that is true. I don't care. He's not here. My 28th year with the team. Players come and go. I care about the players who love football, the players who love the Raiders, and the players who are great, or the players who are trying to become better. That's what I care about. How do the Raiders win games? Christian Wilkins is gone. I wish he wasn't. I wish he never got hurt, and he was a great player. It was like he wasn't even here. And that's unfortunate, because I'm not going to sit here and flip-flop on it. I wanted him to do well. This team needs more Pro Bowlers. We don't have a lot of Pro Bowlers on defense. We don't. And the best teams in football, if you look at the Eagles and the Ravens and the 49ers and the Rams, they have Pro Bowlers on defense. We need to develop them. Pete Carroll has a history of developing them. John Spytek, this is his first run as a GM, but he's been an assistant GM and on teams where players were developed into Pro Bowlers. Because if not, if you can't develop these guys into being Pro Bowlers, then you got to find players from other teams who either were Pro Bowlers or you evaluate them to be better than the players we have on this roster. That's how you run a football team. And Pete Carroll is really good at personnel. He can take a player. I mean, you look at these corners today. I was talking to Deshawn Reed about it. He'll join us later. And Jacorian Bennett is not tall, like over tall and long, but he looks to be a starter. The other guys who are playing corner are tall and long. Pete Carroll wanted those guys in. He just loves that style of play. The team seems to be, and again, I didn't see this crazy day today. No one threw helmets and threw punches and screamed at each other. But I can tell you that it's getting preached from the defensive side that you got to get to the ball quicker and turn the ball over. Now, we say that every year. And callers call up and say, well, where are we going to see the turnovers? Q Myers told me today, you're going to see the turnovers in the secondary. This secondary is being told to go get the football. When it's in the air, go get the ball. And they're long enough and tall enough to go get the ball and to jump routes and to tip the ball where maybe a ball will pop up and a linebacker will get a pick. But, there's not a huge amount to report on other than the Christian Wilkins news. And if I thought it was a good topic for us to sit here and talk about, whatever his behavior was like in his rehab or what he was like, was he a clown? Probably. There are some videos surfacing of him at Clemson acting the fool. But when he was brought in here, other than yelling Raiders into the camera really loud when he signed his contract, I didn't see him around much. And I'm around a lot because he's in the trainer's room where he's going through rehab. I didn't see him around town. Where I go to town, I don't see a lot of social media him around. I don't know if Max and him were like blood brothers or not. I could ask Max, but I have a great friendship with Max. I'm not going to ask him about that. It's none of my business. And Max would tell me. I go have a cigar with him. I'm not going to ask Max Crosby, one of the greatest players I ever covered, to give me gossip about a player. For what? I'm not going to tell you his answer. So why do I need to know it? I mean, you know what I mean? So if Adam Schefter's reporting on this and McAfee loves the topic and something big comes out of this with his behavior, we'll report on it. But today, I can promise you no one over there at the Intermountain Health Performance Center gave a crap. It's like, move on. I say that about media all the time. This is the time of year where guys get let go from sports radio lineups. It happens to all of us in the business. And as Jimmy Iovine once said in the great Dr. Dre documentary, when it happens, you think the world's come to an end. Oh my God, does everybody know I just lost my job? No one cares anymore. Like for 2 days, you get roasted on Twitter. People tell you suck. People say you got passed by, and then they move on. They got to buy groceries and they got to pay for college and got to pick up kids from practice. They don't care. People move on. Our news cycle has moved so fast that my son takes this 2-hour show and all he's looking for is 3 40-minute reels. I'm like, well, I don't want you to watch this show for 2 hours. I wouldn't. But I'd like you to see what I'm doing and find the best of it. So when it comes to someone like Christian Wilkins, how do you want to handle this? I was more upset about Devontae because I don't know everything about Christian Wilkins. If something comes out really crazy, I could change my opinion. Devontae Adams wanted out of the Raiders because he said on Quarterback on Netflix, he said that he was getting killed. And he basically threw Jimmy Garoppolo under the bus because Jimmy Garoppolo was throwing him medicine balls. Those are balls over the middle of the field where he could have got decapitated. And Devontae was getting really, really frustrated with that. And because he's one of the great receivers of his era. So Warren Sharp, who's really sharp, tweeted out, Devontae Adams was being killed by Jimmy G in Las Vegas. So he escaped only to have Jimmy G as a current starting quarterback in LA. So I put out the tweet, how about that?
Yeah.
That's it. Just how about that? And it currently has 40,000 views because Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback in this league. He's won 4 playoff games. Derek Carr's won 0, right? I mean, winning playoff games. And Devontae couldn't have got out of here quick enough. Christian Wilkins was just let go. You know, he got too much money and was let go. I don't know what the reasons were, other than I don't think he rehabbed to the best of his ability and probably turned down an opportunity recommended by the Raiders, possibly, don't know this to be true, but possibly get another surgery. Devontae couldn't get out of here quick enough. And over the decades, there have been better players than Devontae Adams. And that's hard to do. There's been better players than Devontae Adams on bad teams that didn't force themselves out of here. That's a story. And now Devontae's going to have to play with Jimmy G. And I think Stafford will be fine and good to go. His back, just going to be cautious with his back. But Chandler Jones just melted down emotionally, just like Antonio Brown. I mean, we've had some beauties around here, huh, Bobby?
Yeah.
We've had some guys who've had like really good careers and then saw this pot of gold with the Raiders and took it as good players, and then they just mentally melted down.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that happened to Christian Wilkins, but he wouldn't be the first who got paid and then put on the silver and black, and then something wacky happened. But I don't know. Let's see if Christian Wilkins can get his life back in order, because he never has to work again. He's got more money than he'll ever need, generational wealth. But I think he'll land somewhere else, and if he can get healthy again and be a really good player in this league. I said the same thing about Devontae. Devontae's a hell of a player. I love watching him play. He landed with a good team with the Rams, but part of Devontae's legacy is he claimed he wanted to be a Raider. He left the Raiders, and he left the Raiders on purpose, his choice. And then he goes to the Jets. That was a mess, part of his legacy. Now he's ended up with the Rams. And the only thing that can screw up Devontae going forward is if Jimmy G is his starting quarterback. You want to talk about karma. I don't get into karma much. If you start believing in karma all the time, just be a good person in life and things will work out well. So I don't got anything to sell. A lot of people are in my chat. We got 400 people on YouTube and Twitter combined are asking me, JT, what do you know about Christian Wilkins? Nothing. I went to practice today with my notes. I'm going to be calling the game play by play, and I got a lot of work to do. And I tried to look at, who was out there, who are the ones and the twos, who's some of the players. I'm going to be calling their names, and that's it. But no one's talking about Christian Wilkins out there. Today, our alumni, as we look back on the most influential Raiders of all time drafted by the Raiders, is Dave Dalby. So we are excited about that. He continued the chain of Jim Otto, Dave Dalby. We, the Raider Nation, arguably had the greatest run of the center position over 20 years, still to this day. From Otto to Dalby, and then what's gone on after that? There's been really good centers on this team, historically. Really good centers. And I think we have one now with Jackson Powers Johnson. He has the ability to be super special. I mean, he could be a big-time player to the level that he could be a multiple Pro Bowler. When I see Jackson Powers Johnson, there's a lot of people said, why is he working with the twos? I don't know. There might be real competition there with Jordan Meredith, but I think he's just working with the twos in case he has to. He works a little bit. Aiden O'Connell works with Gino, give him reps with both sides because he's a really good player. And Colton Miller hasn't been to a Pro Bowl yet, like a pure Pro Bowl. Jackson Powers Johnson, I think both can go. And then I wanted to mention DJ Glaze today because last year at this time, it might have been the same day, ballpark, same week, that DJ Glaze got a lot of praise because Tom Telesco said at practice, man, he did well against Max. And then everyone was like, ooh, is Max going to like that? Oh, you're going to piss off Max. No, you didn't. Max is elite. If DJ Glaze went toe-to-toe with him for a practice, that's a good thing. We need that. And today I watched DJ Glaze and the offensive line go up against Max. Max has an advantage over all of them. There were a couple of plays, 11 on 11, where Max got to the backfield and just clapped. He slaps his hands, pretty much telling everybody, I got him. Even though the ball comes out, caught or not, Max is like, no, that was a sack. And Max does this loop where he loops around so the crowd could see him. You're going to get beat going up against Max Crosby. But DJ Glaze is a mountain of a man. And he's just getting better and better and better in every rep. So the offensive line, yes, as Big D says, iron sharpens iron. And it's fun to see. So out there today, hung out with a bunch of fans who were there, like walking around. And, the fans are great because there's food trucks there. There's a new parking lot. Fans are realizing they could come. And they're just having a blast. I mean, the fans are really doing a nice job. And Pete Carroll's dead serious. He wants more fans there. Okay, as I say every day, the show started 20 minutes ago and no one's on hold. So that means two things to me. Either one, you don't believe you're invited to call, which I find that hard to believe. Or two, you're not ready as I'm tremendously ready. So I've been great for 20 minutes with energy and excitement. Now we wake you up and we get you involved with the Raider flagship station where they have millions of fans. Not that a million are listening now, but any fan around the country who's a Raider fan can tell us what they think. You can ask me what I think. And if I don't know the answer, I have a couple of guys today who are at practice with me, and maybe they can help us with that too. 702-365-9200. Also, we are going to Canton this week. We're leaving on Thursday. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to get into Baker Mayfield's rework contract, Cortland Sutton, his extension, Deion Sanders with his cancer diagnosis initially and what's happening, and what's going to happen with Micah Parsons. I got a lot to get to today on that part of it. And Cranky Yankee, a Yankee fan, I'm pretty upset. Dodgers couldn't beat Bobby's Red Sox. Man, I thought Bobby's Red Sox were primed to get swept. Dodgers aren't very good. That's just the bottom line. Dodgers are not very good because they should be great. Everyone wants me to stand up and show my shirt, the Compete shirt. Let me stand up.
Oh, nice.
Compete.
Very nice.
It's a Pete Carroll shirt they gave me. Pretty cool. It's a good shirt, man. Some good drip. People talking about the Beyonce show. She brought out Destiny's Child. She brought out her husband, Jay-Z. Last stop of the tour, everybody's talking about Queen Bee, Beyonce here in town. All that, the Wizard of Oz coming to Sphere. I didn't realize that they're bringing wind in for that, wind machines, tornado. It's like crazy. CBS this morning did a feature on that, which is really cool. Yeah, and then I'm excited on Friday. So we're leaving Thursday. On Friday, I'm going to do a best of Eric Allen show. So we're going to be in Canton. I'll be off on Friday, but Bobby and I are working this week to give you like this big EA thing as I'm emceeing the party, which is my fourth party I've emceed for the Raiders at the Hall of Fame. Ken Stabler, Cliff Branch, Tom Flores, and my guy, Eric Allen. How amazing is that going to be? So I'll have hopefully some good stories to tell you about that. That's going to be really cool. Still time to get out there. If you want to get out there for Eric Allen, I think you can, and get out there. And it's not going to be, it should be a nice program with only 4 guys getting in. Also, want to remind everybody that Brent Musburger is getting into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in the media section, and he was the voice of the Raiders for a couple of years and was very kind to me. Wow. What Brent Musburger did for me in the short time that I got to know him, from London to having dinner with him to knowing him. Wow, he really touched my life in a big way. Gangsta Raider leading us off today on the first day of pads at practice. Go ahead.
Hey, what's happening? Congratulations to Eric Davis. And do you know if he's going in as a Raider or the Eagle?
That would be Eric Allen, and no one goes in as anybody. They go in individually. Baseball, you go in with a hat. Ichiro goes in as a Mariner. Cheater goes in as a Yankee. In football, you don't go in as an Eagle or a Raider. You just go in.
Okay, cool. Well, how was it with the pass today? I know
Mhm.
I saw a little bit of the footage that Q and them had put out on the
Yep.
media, and I saw seemed like Zinty was doing his thing. But how did Trey Tucker look in the offensive line, and what it did the part that I saw, the defensive line never didn't have no helmets on. Did the defensive line ever put their helmets on, and who shined? And also, did the you know how the Raiders used to let you tailgate all day during the game at the parking lot? Do they still not let you They used to make you leave in Vegas. Do you know if they let you tailgate through the whole game now? Or because I heard they were supposed to change that.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I could find out that for you, gangster. I don't know. Mostly people after they go into the game, but the people who don't go into the game, I don't know if they ask you to leave your parking spot. I don't know that. But now that they have bars set up, Whiskey Stadium and all that, and they're really putting on a little bit of an extra emphasis with tailgating this year. I know from the Black Hole and what they're doing, they're going to have that masquerade for season ticket holders. There's going to be some, I think, advanced and better tailgating coming up this year for the Raiders.
All right, one more question. And do you think Brock Bowers and Myers are going to be on the field together mostly, or do you think it's just going to be 11 mostly this year, in your opinion?
Thanks for the call. They're going to do a lot of 12 personnel, I think, with Brock and Michael Mayer together. I've said this. I don't know anybody who said it more on the show than me, that if you're going to keep Michael Mayer on this team, get him the football or let him go. Let him go somewhere else. If you're going to put Michael Mayer on this team, make sure he touches the football. And Ashton Genty had a run today for about, again, they're not tackling to the ground, but they were in pads. Literally, he had a run that he broke for about 17 yards before anybody came over. He was shot out of a cannon. Tyree Wilson, I'm watching a lot. Adam Butler a lot. Max, Malcolm Kuntz. The defensive line looks good, but today I studied more of the offensive line and who was out there on the offensive line, which I thought did a nice job holding up compared to last year. And Trey Tucker seems to catch a big, deep ball whenever I'm at practice. I love him inside the 20s when you're running a deep route the other way, because Deontay, the new wide receiver out of Tennessee, Dante's unbelievable. I think he's going to be the really big surprise along with Jack Besh. Lance in Huntington Beach. What's going on, Lance?
Not much. I just wanted to make a comment on this whole Christian Wilkins thing, but more of a big picture. I just think the salary cap is getting so big now that administrations, whoever is running this team, whether it's Spytek, Telesco, the McDaniels era, Mayock, everybody kind of comes in and lets players walk that are drafted at this team, they're impact players and they're gamers. Josh Jacobs, Nate Hobbs, Robert Spillane, Trayvon Merrick, other guys in the past.
Well, hold on. Let's stop for a second. Hold on. Let's stop for a second. Nate Hobbs, Trayvon Merrick, and especially if you look at some of the players that you just mentioned, they didn't let him walk. Trayvon Merrick got such an overpriced deal, and Spillane 10 minutes into free agency, they didn't match it. Now, if you're saying that's letting them walk when they get over the market price for them to leave, I would disagree. I think there's certain players they have a price on, and if they don't want to pay overpriced for them, they're going to let them go. I don't think they're asking him to leave. They're just not going to go beyond a certain amount when it comes to money.
Well, that I just expect more from my GM. I expect them to get this deal done when it's more beneficial to the team. I could look at those players play. I mean, Nate Hobbs has games like plays where he's won games.
Come on, man. He's not available. He's hurt all the time. Nate Hobbs. Hobbs is a one-dimensional. He's a one-dimensional corner who plays on the inside in the slot and can't play outside corner enough to start in this league. And he's more of I like Nate. He made some plays from time to time, and he missed a lot of games. I think what I'd like you to say, Lance, is this is John Spytek's team now, and he didn't draft the other guys beforehand. Who do you think that John Spytek should have kept that he didn't keep?
Well, Nate Hobbs breaks bones. He breaks his hand. He breaks his shoulder. I'm okay with that. He's not sitting out because he has a hamstring like Darren Waller did while he's making music videos. Nate Hobbs puts his body on the line to win games. That's what I want.
Okay.
He'll go out there and play with a club on his hand if he can. That's a Raider, and we let him walk. That's the way I see it.
Okay. I appreciate the call. You are a Nate Hobbs guy. I'm not. I was never a Nate Hobbs guy. He went to Illinois when my wife went to school. I liked him. I liked him when he came to the Raiders, and I think he flashed. He's a flash player. He's not a 17-game player. He's just not. And I like cornerbacks. Let me tell you, not everybody can be Eric Allen, and nobody can be Rod Woodson. But Rod Woodson, you can move to corner, safety, slot corner, and line him up in the box. Jeremy Chin, you can line him up in the box. He could play safety. And if you ask Jeremy Chin to play corner, he could. Nate Hobbs couldn't. Nate Hobbs did not distinguish himself. I always said this about Nate Hobbs, who I said if Nate Hobbs was really good, he could play corner. Not slot. Forget about slot. Can you play cornerback in the NFL if you're a cornerback? Nate Hobbs could not play cornerback. Now, we're going to see if Jacorian Bennett can play cornerback, which means you don't take him off the field. And then Darian Porter, who came in, the converted wide receiver who looks good, really good. He let an interception went right through his hands today. It was a high ball to Trey Tucker. It was right to him. It went through his hands. I wish he would have caught it. Everyone would have exploded. Can he stay on the field? If you're a cornerback, don't tell me about your slot corner. Tell me you can play corner, like Mike Haynes, Willie Brown, Lester Hayes, and then we'll move you to the slot or whatever. But if you're a slot corner, or you come in and nickel and you just can play in the slot and you can't play corner in case of an emergency, then you're not a corner that's deserving all this money. That's just the way I look at it. 702-365-9200. Got a lot of news today to get to from the first day in pads. We are brought to you by Raising Cane's. One love. Raising Cane's loves my live reads. You know why, Bobby? Because they know I go there. They know my sons are Caniacs. They know that JT the Brick loves Cane's because they're the best chicken fingers in town, and we go all the time, and we tell you about Raising Cane's. That should be enough for Cane's.
By the way, Dolby, dude, I looked everywhere. Everywhere.
Okay, good. That's all right.
The only thing I found was some ministry that was talking about.
No.
Play that shit. But I looked, there was just nothing.
Mark Anderson at 35.
7 a.m. on Raider Nation Radio, 9:20 a.m.
Feel the electricity this summer with a new Honda. Let a great deal take you further, whether you choose an electric Honda or a hybrid. Check out the Prologue, a Accord hybrid or Civic hybrid. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get a 0% APR at 2025 Prologue, a 2.99% APR at 2025 Accord hybrid, or 5.49% APR at 2025 Civic hybrid. Hurry into your Honda dealer during the summer event. If you've been in a motorcycle accident, remember, it's not about the injury.
D, I don't think Adam Schefter just talks constant trash on the Raiders. He used to back when he was covering the Denver Broncos, but I watch a lot of Adam Schefter. I don't think he's always going after the Raiders. I know. That was a good line. Al said to Schefter, you don't work for Denver anymore. You work for ESPN. That was a great one. Oh, always a member. Hope everybody had a good weekend. I'm kind of saving my voice. I'm not going to be talking as much today during the breaks because my voice is shot. And I don't know. Voice is shot. And that's not going to be good for later in the week. And I got a double today. I got a double tomorrow. A lot.
Pete Carroll coming back. Hey, Marcus, Bobby, how you doing? Doing all right. I'll get up with JT. Give me about a minute and a half, okay? He's in. And Pete Carroll talking about philosophy coming back. In about a minute.
And pack up the car, bring the kids, and make memories that last without spending a fortune. Cedar City, beautiful southern Utah, is closer than you think and cooler than you expect. An easy 3-hour drive, and you can enjoy that cool mountain air. Enjoy an amazing hike in one of the many nearby national parks, or some great fishing from nearby lakes and reservoirs. There's something for everyone, and it won't break the bank. Visit cedarcity.com to plan your summer escape. Hey babe, where are you going?
Fantastic indoor swap meet.
I love
Yeah.
Back in a minute.
Okay.
What are we shopping for?
Everything. He got everything.
Leon says, JT, do you think we make the playoffs? I don't predict games. I'm not in the playoff predictions.
The offense turns into
Yeah, if the offense has a great year, if Genti has a Pro Bowl year, yeah, I think the Raiders can win 9-10 games.
Who knows? You got Genti and Moser, at least you got a freaking running game now. You got a real quarterback who can throw more than 20
Got a real quarterback in Gino, and Aiden O'Connell looks just like he changed his body. He looks fine.
Oh, you're going to see lots of him in the preseason.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of Aiden. And look, I want Gino to play every snap. I want him to play every snap. But if Aiden had to come in,
All right, here we go.
Aiden could do really well this year.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show,
Pete Carroll.
brought to you by PT's, the best happy hour in town, 5 to 7 p.m. and midnight to 2 a.m.
Yeah, I was taught a long time ago that you either have a philosophy or you don't, and we have one. But the philosophy is affected by the people, you know, and how they adapt to it and how they make it come to life and all that. And that's what this process. So my biggest challenge is to give them the ways that we believe we can play our football, but then let it become theirs. And so it's really a fun challenge, and it's why I'm so charged up. And I've been a little bit fired up since I've been here. I know that. I know you might have seen that or not. But each practice is an opportunity for us. Each day is a statement of who we are, what we're all about. Are we there again? Are we consistent? Are we battling? And so it's a coach's dream to have an opportunity like this, really. And so the fellas are responding in a way that's making it really fun. And we're going to get pads a couple of days from now. We'll really start to bring it.
All right, JT, that's Pete Carroll. As we continue on, JT back with you. We're brought to you by Grimaldi's, hands down my favorite pizza in Vegas. You can get the famous New York-style coal-fired brick oven pizza. Grimaldi's is now serving slices on weekdays for lunch. I believe I should get some credit for that. Always like a pizza establishment that sells slices. Yeah. Summerlin at Boca Park on the Strip, Grand Canal Shops, Southwest Las Vegas on South Rainbow, and Green Valley as you're climbing eastern. You can see it there on the right, and they're a great partner, the $50 gift cards we love giving away to passionate listeners. Mark Anderson joins us from the AP, the great insider that we have on our team, and good seeing you at practice today. What'd you think of pads? Your first Pete Carroll practice in pads, Mark. Did you notice anything different?
It's what you expected. The players are fired up. You know, they've been fired up all along anyway. I think his energy just rubs off on them, and I just love watching him bounce around. But there was just like everything's running so organized. One thing I noticed about Chris, the practices are they're in and out of plays really fast. Each period's done right on time. You're not having things drag out, and you can tell that's being punctual is really important to him. Yes, I would agree. I think the offense is getting in and out of the huddle, and they're running a much cleaner offense on the offensive side of the ball, where, you and I last year saw what Max Crosby did to practice. And even though Max is the dominant player out there, it seems to be smoother. Genti looked good today. He had a big run right in front of you and I that we saw today. Do your eyes tell you a story on Genti now from Boise State? to the pros where he hits the hole with young legs and fresh legs. This guy could take it to the house.
Yeah, he had this one run in one of the team periods where he looked like he was stopped for maybe a couple yard gain or something like that. And I know that they're not doing, serious tackle, but at the same time, I think with him, they're also wanting to make sure he earns it. And it looked like he had no chance. But the next thing you know, he's using the angles he uses and using his height and strength to his advantages. And he found a way to pop through there and get a nice gain out of it. And I think that's the kind of run you saw him make at Boise State a lot. And we got a glimpse of that out of practice today. And like I said, I don't want to read too much into in practice, but we've seen all along now, going back to OTAs and minicamp, that his footwork is just phenomenal. It's as good as it gets. And that stuff translates. And I think he's going to do a lot of great things this season.
Mark Anderson's our guest. I like to see the activity around Michael Mayer. They seemed always in the team drills, and when they go 11 on 11, he's getting the ball early. I'm getting that impression that they want to keep him engaged in this camp, and he's getting a pass underneath. He's getting to touch the ball, which I think is imperative to keeping him engaged with this team. With Brock Bowers going to get all the touches that Brock deserves to get.
Yeah, and I mean they traded up to get him for a reason. He's still got the talent to be one of the top tight ends in the league, and it's obviously easy to get overlooked. And he's gone through some bad breaks the past couple of years. I think he missed all that time last season for something happening in his personal life, and that's tough to get back from that, and especially when Bowers is having the season he was having, and really reassert yourself. So he's getting a fresh start with this new coaching staff. I think they see the talent he has. I also like what Ian Thomas has done a lot, and I can see them using all three tight ends this season and using them effectively, because you don't want to put it all on Bowers. And so I really like their tight end room.
Mark Anderson from the AP. So you're in the locker room more than I am, but when it comes to Schefter's reporting that Wilkins might have kissed a teammate on the head in a playful gesture, and that could have been the reason involved with his release, and it's a legal matter and a grievance, as we know, going forward. I don't care to comment much on this, but when you're around your peers, I was with you today, Deshawn Reed, Paul Gutierrez, Vinny, a lot of guys today. No one mentioned Christian Wilkins today. It's like he's came, he's gone. That story's in the past. Do you think there's more to it? Are you looking into the story deeper?
I guess it depends how the grievance goes. To me, that's the next step of this. The Raiders obviously taking a big chance in trying to avoid his contract. I don't know that they're going to be able to do that. They're going to have to provide documentation and witnesses and all sorts of things that was necessary to do. And that's a high bar to reach, and it should be. I actually have a little bit of experience around Rick Wilkins when he was at Clemson, because I was presenting the Nagurski Award for the best defensive player, and he was one of the finalists. So I got to spend a couple of days around him, and he was a big jokester. He was the biggest jokester of all the finalists there, and big personality. I can see, I don't know what happened in the locker room. I can see him having fun with something and it being taken the wrong way, so I can see that completely happening. And so, but again, I don't really know what happened. I mean, when these things happen, all sorts of rumors get spread, and it's hard to really know what happened. And if anything happened in the locker room, it may not have anything to do with what the Raiders did anyway. They may already have their minds made up. So it's just hard to know.
Mark, after the padded practice, what do you expect to see the rest of the week for this team? I mean, we got a week and a half until the preseason game up in Seattle, but as we see more padded practices, do you think Pete's going to ramp it up and there'll be more physicality than today? I think there was a lot of physical play in the drills overall, but there were no struggles, punches, no players really getting after each other, unless I missed something. I expect the physical practices to get heated up here in a little bit.
Yeah, it wasn't as physical as I thought it'd be. And I kind of wonder if that was by design, if maybe they're trying to get to that point. I do think, like I said, I do think the energy was great. I didn't have any problem with that. I think it's very interesting. There's really not a lot of happening as far as position battles. I think they came out of OTAs and minicamp basically knowing what their starting lineup is. Obviously, you could have changes here and there. We saw Jordan Meredith practicing a couple days as starting center, but I still think that's JPJ's job. You still have the rookie Porter, and you got Stokes at corners, and I can see some push there, but both players have held on to those positions. So I don't know, unless you have injuries. I just don't know there's going to be a lot of use as far as position battles, and that to me is very interesting because that's different from what we've seen.
Yeah, I want to end on that. The position battles at corner. I would think that Jacorian Bennett's the lead to have one of the corner positions. What they do on the other side will be interesting. And I'm not reading into much with Meredith and JPJ, but you never know. I mean, this is the essence of what Pete Carroll does. If he sees something on film, or if he sees Meredith just having a better practice than JPJ and wants to give him first team reps, I get that. But I don't see JPJ losing that. He's a pure center. In the history of the Raiders, center history, he seems to be the next one anointed who could potentially be great. And if he has a challenge with competition, I expect that through Pete Carroll. That's what he's done on every stop in his career.
Yeah, and it's in the first week of practice. Why not try things? If Meredith is showing up on video looking like he's doing well, why not give him a chance to go out there and see what he can do? Because JPJ's had an injury history too in a short time here, so you can't assume he's going to start all 17 games. So I think you better be ready at that position, especially. So and I Jacorian Bennett, I saw him in the final team practice session today. They actually had him third team. I don't know. I really like him. I thought he was playing really well before he got hurt last season. I thought he had every chance to be a starter this season, but I think Pete Carroll just loves those really tall, long DBs, and that's not Jacorian Bennett. So I think he has a lot to overcome, and I do think he's a really good player, and I would like to see him get more of a chance, but we'll see. I mean, it seems like other guys are kind of getting more of a favorable deal. That's probably not the right words to say, but they're getting more advantages at this point.
Yep, I see it that way too. It's going to be fun to watch as this plays out. Thanks, Mark. See you out there tomorrow.
Sounds good. JT, thanks for having me on.
You got it. Mark Anderson, big part of our new revamped Insiders Grid, which he does not move. Mark on Mondays. He's super sharp. He writes for the AP, been in this town forever, knows the story. He just told you about those position battles. Jacorian Bennett is not long. He's not tall. Could that put his position in jeopardy? I don't think so. I think he's our starter. I think he's the guy. But Pete Carroll's expertise is the corner position. And if he thinks, no, I got a longer guy with experience and he's going to be better, I'm going to put him in there, Pete's going to do that, along with Patrick Graham. We have the Patrick Graham press conference. We're going to play it from yesterday because you weren't listening yesterday. I wasn't listening yesterday. And this is the flagship, and I'd like to hear it from my prep. So we'll get to that next hour in the show. Dan Graziano from ESPN will join us. I keep telling you, and we're this close. If you can see my fingers, La Casa Cigars and Lounge at Tivoli Village, proud sponsor of our show. What a great partner. They got their big announcement coming any day, any minute on the reopening of La Casa. Can't wait for that because I got to go get some cigars for Canton. Oh, yeah. I know Mike wants me to have cigars at the Eric Allen party, and I got to have a few. Yeah. So we got to get some La Casa cigars to head on out there. La Casa Cigars and Lounge at Tivoli Village, and online at lacasacigars.com. They got a great Instagram page too, so you can see everything, and especially the grand reopening coming up. Okay.
We're good. Yeah. I'll skip the music and we'll go right into it.
Yeah. We'd like to meet up at the Torch. And whenever I get a wise ass in my DMs, I say, meet me at the Torch. No one ever seems to meet me at the Torch. The guys are the little wise asses that come and take shots at me on my DMs. I would say, why don't you just come say hi at the Torch? They never come. Maybe Fabian can tell them how to get to the Torch. It's a big thing. It's hard to miss. Yeah, Mark Anderson's really good. I mean, he's one of those guys I want to have on the show every 2 weeks because he sees things differently. I'm almost done with the Billy Joel documentary. I watched part 2 last night. I couldn't get through it all. It was so long. So I hit the sack. I watched Happy Gilmore 2. Happy Gilmore 2. The more brain cells that you lose before you watch it, the better. Like if you can lose brain cells before you watch it, then you'll enjoy the movie more. I thought they butchered that movie with the golf. They had so many great golf insiders, Bobby, like players, Jack Nicklaus, Nick Faldo, Fred Couples. And the dinner scene was kind of cool. But, man, God, the way they played golf and competed, it just,
Yeah. 2.5. Raheem Mostert coming back.
Yep. Ooh. Yeah, a lot of pros in that. I got to get a quick sip of water.
Smoked ham, tender turkey, smoky cheddar, bacon, and tangy barbecue sauce. Sweet, savory, sassy, but not for long. Order now at portofsubs.com, on the app, or right on in today. The Smoky Western, only for a limited time. Slice fresh sandwiches, Port Subs.
The world's largest Formula One attraction is now open at Grand Prix Plaza. Step into the action with F1X, a cutting-edge 4D experience where you design your own custom F1 car in a fully immersive tech-powered space. Then hit the track with F1 Drive, the only karting experience that lets you race on an F1 circuit. It's Formula One like you've never seen or felt before. Nevada residents save up to 25%. Get your tickets now at GrandPrixPlaza.com.
Talk to Aaron Taylor. Get the most cash. Talk to Aaron Taylor, the real estate guy. Modelo. I had some Modelo this weekend. Bobby, I'm going to give you an 872. I'm going to need it. Okay.
Will do. Back in 10 seconds, Raheem Mostert. We're going to have like about 4 minutes on this one. So called.
Yeah.
Show brought to you by the Black Hole. Become a member of football's most notorious fans.
Feeling great. The body's adjusting to the training camp life, especially being out here. It's something that I'm not quite used to, but I sort of am, being in Miami for the past 3 years. So the heat's not so much the problem. It's getting my breath in the altitude. That's the big thing. So it's been fun though.
Raheem Mostert, going to be a nice secondary running back with explosive ability. JT, back with you. Our most influential draft pick alumni today is Dave Dalby, one of the greatest Raiders of all time, played at the center position his entire 14-year career with the Oakland LA Raiders of the NFL. Played college football for the UCLA Bruins. He was a guy who was a star lineman, center, and defensive end. He did it all. Al Davis drafted him in 1972 in the 4th round. The 100th pick overall. He is a 3-time Super Bowl champ, a Pro Bowler, and Dalby being the 100th pick by the Raiders and playing 14 seasons, he did not miss a single game. In his fourth year in 1975, he replaced the legendary Hall of Famer Pops Jim Otto as the starting center. How hard do you think that would be? Replacing Jim Otto, arguably the greatest center of all time. He became only the second starting center in franchise history, as Otto had started since the team began in 1960. For the next decade, Dalby was part of the offensive line, which won 3 Super Bowls, Super Bowl 11, 15, and 18. During that 1975-1985 window, the Raiders reached the playoffs 8 times. And during his 11 seasons as a starter, he played next to Gene Upshaw, a Hall of Famer, and some of the great offensive linemen, Mickey Marvin, George Bueller. He was fantastic. The Pro Bowl in 1977. After his retirement, he was replaced by Don Mosbar, who had a long career with the Raiders. He was a brilliant football player. I never met him. I didn't know Dave Dalby well. And every time I heard about Dave Dalby from his teammates and everybody who talked about him and how much, when I see him, I want to say that when I talk about him, because I don't see him around when I started with the team as much, but when I talk to people, and this guy, when he passed away, I was with the team 98 and he passed in 2002. I don't recall meeting him, but I recall so many fans talking to me about him and asking about him, and the alumni that I asked about him to get up to speed on him talk about how tough he was, durable, and one of the greatest teammates in Raiders history. Dave Dalby, 1972, 4th round, the 100th pick, one of the all-time great Raiders. And he deserves a lot of credit today. If you remember him, you're one of the fans that remember Dave Dalby playing. We give him a day today because of his impact as 100th pick overall and winning 3 Super Bowls. Easily another guy who could be in my top 10. I think there were some greater players, Hall of Famers, but a lot of people thought that this was an underrated guy, really underrated guy who anchored the offensive line after Jim Otto. How hard is that to do? Imagine replacing Jim Otto. It's like replacing Willie Mays and Lou Gehrig. How do you do that? He was able to do it at the highest level. Another hour coming up. Dan Graziano from ESPN joins us next. All right, I'll keep it here for a little bit. We'll keep it here for one more chat session.
Did you do 872?
No, I didn't. JT, how would you say the coaches go about the balance of wanting players to practice hard, but also not to want them to get hurt? Yeah, I mean, that's what Pete Carroll's all about. He wants them to go pretty hard at practice and compete, but then hopefully he pulls off the gas and the players recover in a beautiful practice facility with all the enhancements that they need to stay healthy. I mean, look, when guys get hurt, they get hurt. I mean, a lot of times it's a fluke. That's a hard question. Yep, Bobby's going to get a dart. Bobby goes to get a cigarette, so if the phone rings, I'm dead. If the phone rings, no one knows. Bobby's out having a cigarette. And any grown-ass man deserves to have a cigarette. If you smoke. I don't smoke. Yeah, Fabian, I think the tight end, I think Jamal Adams and Jeremy Chin on Travis Kelce is going to be a big improvement. I really do. If Pete Carroll can't figure out how to slow down Travis Kelce, we have no chance.
Here's your chance to own a luxury vehicle at a non-luxury price. Hi, this is Brennan, General Manager at Jaguar Land Rover Las Vegas. Come and see a variety of our certified pre-owned vehicles at Jaguar Land Rover Las Vegas. Online at JLRLV.com.
This summer, you'll be loving how we're lending at America First Credit Union. Get new Visa credit cards with 0% intro APR for 6 months. You can ride at 90 days with no payments on new model loans and 60 days no payments on RV and power sports loans. Our home equity loans start with introductory 4.49% APRs for 5 Finance debt or take on a dream project. Start the summer fun now. Your payments smoother. Apply today at AmericanFirst.com or visit the branch. Subject to membership eligibility, terms, benefits, and conditions. Federally insured by NCUA.
All right, Dan Graziano from ESPN. That's a pretty good guest.
LendingStore.com connect you to a lender faster than this commercial. When you need cash for a medical bill, groceries, or rent, LendingStore.com's network of lenders makes it quick and easy. In less time than this ad, you can fill out a few fields at LendingStore.com and find out if a lender can get you $500 to $5,000 as early as tomorrow. So visit LendingStore.com today for details. See website for details. LendingStore is not a lender and does not make credit decisions. Must be 18 years old. Not available in all states.
Hello, I'm Jesse Fonseca with Park Place Realty. I have been your local broker since 1990. Yes, that's 35 years. So if you're looking to sell or buying a home, I'd love to be your choice. Call or text for more information, 702-736-3000. I'm also a mortgage maker, so if no one will lend you, I'll lend you. I have a lot of money. Credit restoration, notary, and much more. Call for a free home evaluation, 736-3000. License 81.3790. Geneva Financial 393-995.
Modelo is an official cerveza of the Las Vegas Raiders and the JT the Brick Show. Modelo Especial is a rich, full-flavored Pilsner-style lager, delivering a crisp, refreshing taste. Brewed with fighting spirit since 1925.
Boyd Gaming is the official and exclusive local casino.
What's going on, everybody?
Bring your friends, have some fun, but always bet on black. Visit their 10 casinos across the valley. Don't let the game get out of hand. Please bet responsibly.
Raider Nation has found its new home for daily Raiders content. This is Raider Nation Radio 920 AM, part of the Las Vegas Sports Network, KROE Las Vegas.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by Modelo Especial, the new #1 beer in the U.S.
Give me a second, I'll go get him.
It's the JT the Brick Show, broadcasting live from the Fake Cadillac Performance Studio.
Raiders bring a blitz. Takes him up the middle. He's wrapped up from behind. Max Crosby.
Your silver and black home to sound off for over 25 years. JT the Brick.
Hour number 2 on Raider Nation Radio. Dan Graziano from ESPN joins us, and Deshawn Reed this hour. That's a pretty good insider hour as we continue. Today was the first day in pads over at practice, and that was a lot of fun. Good to see some hitting and some football. This hour is brought to you by the 872 Laborers, led by Tommy White. Tommy White's been a good friend for a long time, and his team is incredible, building the city on time and on budget. Tommy's always with me during football season. I get a chance to go and watch some of the game with him. Every game, it's a tradition unlike any other. I get in the building. I do the pregame show. I go see Tommy. He sets the tone mentally for me. We get ready for the game. Look forward to doing that again. Thanks to the 872 Laborers. When you see all the building going on in this valley, making Las Vegas great as the sports and entertainment capital of the world, Tommy and the 872 Laborers care. They do an unbelievable job, and I love supporting the 872 as we kick off this hour of the show. So if you're excited about the Raiders, you should be very excited now because we're having padded practices. So we want to hear from fans who went there today. So if you went out and you went to practice, we would like to hear from you today. What do you think about this? Because fans need to hear what's happening. Fans need to understand what's going on. And we're trying to get you fired up, but maybe you saw something at practice, and we want to find out what you think about this team and if you've noticed anything differently. A lot of Raider fans travel to practice, you travel to games, and maybe this is something that you're excited about going forward. Maybe you believe you saw something at practice with Pete Carroll. You just saw something a little bit different. So if you went out to a practice, let me know what it's like. Tell our fans about it, because Pete Carroll clearly wants everybody to go out. 702-365-9200 as we continue on. Deshawn Reed a little bit later on this hour. And Deshawn wrote a really good article on Eric Allen. And I will be in Canton on Thursday. So I'm excited to be there for that. So that's going to be a lot of fun as I'm leaving on Thursday for Canton, Ohio, and I'll be there emceeing Eric Allen's Hall of Fame party in Canton, and that'll be a big crowd, big turnout for this class. Always thrilling to talk to Dan Graziano from ESPN.
covers the NFL as good as anybody. Dan, I wanted to begin with this Baker Mayfield rework contract. Really seemed like he saved his career when he got out of Cleveland, had that cup of coffee with McVay in L.A., and then got to Tampa after Brady, and everything's coming to him, especially the money now.
Yeah, it's funny. I was at Buccaneers camp today. I was talking to Baker Mayfield. He could have given me a hint that something was coming. That would have been nice of him, but maybe I could have broke the story. But anyway, no, he's good. We were talking about his journey and how he ended up in Tampa and how it's sort of been this place where he's sort of been able to be himself and be comfortable and have success. So, yeah, he seems like a fairly happy and content individual right now. Obviously, they changed coordinators on him again, but that happens pretty much every year of his career, so he's used to it. And the guy that they have now is the guy that was on staff last year, and they already have a relationship. So, yeah, yeah, we were talking about it. Like, you just never, ever know, and he's a testament to sticking it out, because to hear him tell it, he found a place where the message that the Buccaneers sent him when they signed him was like, just be you and play football and it'll work out. And he felt like he needed to hear that at that point in his career, because he felt like there had been a lot of voices early in his career telling him what he was supposed to do and what he wasn't. So, yeah, seems like a different guy. And very sort of happy with how it's all worked out.
Yeah, Dan, I'm happy you said that. If we could elaborate on that more, with a quarterback finding a home where he's comfortable and can be themselves. A lot of times the bonus babies, the first picks overall, it doesn't work initially, and then they get to another team, and then all of a sudden it slows down for them. They don't feel pressure to have to play initially. They get out there and their career starts to take off again because they have the right fit around them, and then their family gets comfortable there. Jared Goff's interesting to me too, because he went to a Super Bowl in L.A. They let him go, and he feels really comfortable, like this is the right fit for him in Detroit.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Sam Darnold just had the 1 year in Minnesota, but obviously it was very successful. And Geno Smith in Seattle, ascending to that role after Russell Wilson was traded, a decade or so after he was drafted high in the second round by the Jets. So situation matters so much. The coaching matters so much. I'll never forget, prior to the 2018 draft, I was doing an interview much like this one, and somebody asked about Lamar Jackson and said, do you think he'll be successful in the NFL? And I said, well, tell me who's going to coach him, because if he lands in the wrong spot, maybe not, but he did land in the right spot, and has obviously he's obviously flourished with a couple of MVP awards. So, yeah, it matters. And, we treat these guys as finished products sometimes, like where they're the guy's drafted number one, he's supposed to be like what Joe Burrow instantly was in Cincinnati. That's pretty rare. That guy's not in every draft. And I think it's important for people to remember that these are still young players that have developing to do in a lot of cases.
Dan, you mentioned Geno Smith, and I'm out here at Raiders camp, and the ball's coming out nice. Aiden O'Connell even looks better. They got Brock Bowers, Ashton Genty, Michael Mayer, Jacoby Myers, 1,000 yards, didn't drop a ball. They drafted a couple of wide receivers here, and the offense just looks completely faster and just more explosive under Chip Kelly. Do you think this is going to be a better fit for Geno because of Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty, two players who could be generational talents? And if Geno just does his 4,000 yards and 70% completion percentage, the Raiders could excel quicker than maybe 2 or 3 years down the road.
Yeah, look, I'm a fan of Geno, and I think he's good. And I don't think people really understand how well he's played the last couple of years in Seattle. I don't think it was a lack of passing game targets or passing game, skill position talent that was holding him back, if anything was, in Seattle. I think when he got in trouble in Seattle was when they had trouble protecting him. And I think he did a lot to mitigate the offensive line issues in Seattle last year with his play. But ultimately, that probably kept Seattle's offense from being what it could be. So now you're there at Raiders camp. So tell me, do they have enough on the line? Are they going to be able to keep him protected so that he can get the ball to all those guys that you're talking about? That, to me, is the question. Geno Smith is a good enough quarterback to help you overcome some substandard offensive line issues. He's not a good enough quarterback to to completely rescue it, right? Like, again, I go back to Burrow. That year they went to the Super Bowl with pretty much no offensive line. Like, Geno needs more than that.
Yeah.
And I think if the Raiders can develop that and get that going, and Chip Kelly's scheme, will help, right? That'll help the protection as well. You talk about the pace, and I'm sure there's a lot of moving around going on. So, yeah, I like the Raiders, but they're in the division with three teams who made the playoffs last year and probably all got better.
Yeah, Dan Graziano's our guest. I think the Raider offensive line is improved with John Spytek there and what they did in the offseason. Dan, you've been doing this a long time. You've seen Cleveland just be a graveyard for quarterbacks. Now with Kenny Pickett going to be out here, Shedeur looks good, but if he's going up against the 2s and 3s, Dylan Gabriel, I didn't think they needed Shedeur and Dylan, both of them. And Joe Flacco, I don't expect him to play the whole season. How do you think this is going to play out? Is Stefanski going to get ahead of this, or is it going to be dramatic all year for the fans in Cleveland again?
Yeah, that was the last thing he said, probably. Like, it is the best thing that Cleveland got out of this year's draft, I think, was an extra first-round pick in the deal that they made with Jacksonville so the Jaguars could go up and get Travis Hunter. That positions Cleveland next year, if none of these guys work out, to draft a quarterback in a draft that I think a lot of people are expecting will have more and better options. If one of these guys does work out and you get to the end of this year and you're like, oh, yeah, Shedeur Sanders is our guy, or Dylan Gabriel's our guy, or Kenny Pickett, whoever, then you can use those 2 first-round picks to make your team better around that guy. And that's a good position to be in as well. So I think they're set up to figure it out over the next couple of years, but that does leave open the strong possibility that it doesn't get figured out this year, and they have more questions heading into next offseason.
Wrapping it up with Dan Graziano. Dan, you got a big seat on ESPN with some of the shows that were eliminated on Fox Sports 1, NFL Network, and their potential move. Rich Eisen's coming over to ESPN. I follow the media real closely doing this long. Do you like where the NFL media is going forward? I mean, ESPN, obviously, your home team advantage there. But with Netflix, Amazon, all the streaming, and the way audiences are getting their information quickly from you at camp, YouTube, and all this, are these bright days ahead for NFL media?
Wow, that's a good question. I was not expecting. It's tough for me to talk about, like, what might happen in terms of, potential mergers, acquisitions, all that kind of stuff, consolidation. So, I mean, I think you probably have to talk to somebody in ESPN PR to get a sense of what we're doing. Look, I think I get people ask me, like, college kids are like, do you have any advice on getting into this business? My whole thing is, like, be nimble, right? Because you don't know what the landscape's going to do around you. So I think what's kind of kept me going is I could write, I can do TV, I can do radio, like whatever they need, and be versatile. And I think, those of us who are in those positions, I think that's probably the best advice, is sort of stay amenable to anything, because you really don't know what's going to happen. We could sit here and predict what it's going to look like in 5-10 years, but I think if we had done that 5-10 years ago, we would have got it wrong.
Yeah, that's why I asked that, because you got a big seat and give out a lot of advice. And, from your early days of reporting and trying to break news, and you still break news and do that, I mean, there's still fans out there that want quick breaking news. But as you said, when you write your deep pieces and you really go in depth, you still like that part of it where you can chase a story and take your time with it and put out something that's going to last a long time and have a legacy to it.
Yeah, and sort of inform and educate, right? Because if you're not going to break the story, right, if you're in a world where Adam Schefter at our place is going to break, probably 95% of the NFL stuff, what can you offer in terms of coverage of a breaking news story? Here's what this means for the next round of quarterback deals. Here's the behind the scenes on why and how this happened. There's a lot of information to get out there that isn't just so-and-so is now signing a contract with so-and-so. So I think that's a key way to look at it too. Like how much can you get people underneath the surface of what's going on and educate them about it? And I think there's always going to be room for that kind of stuff.
Where are you on the road to next after Tampa earlier today? What's your training camp tour look like?
So I'm driving. My next stop's Miami, so I'm driving down I-75 in Western Florida. Going to go by Naples and then across to Miami, and then I'll fly up to Washington and see Commanders, Ravens, Eagles, maybe the New Jersey teams on my way home to Connecticut. I was in Atlanta and Jacksonville the last couple of days, and then Tampa today. So that's kind of the swing for right now.
Keep the grind going. Thanks for making time for me. Great talking to you.
Love it. All right, I appreciate it. Take care.
You got it. Dan Graziano from ESPN. I don't think that question caught him off guard. I was just asking a media question because that's what we're doing. The growth of YouTube, the growth of McAfee, the lineup changes every year that happen. And he's got a big seat. He's on ESPN, and he has an opportunity to talk to a lot of people. That opens up a line for you, 702-365-9200. Let's get into Baker Mayfield. I watched Baker Mayfield. My son went to Oklahoma, watched him play college football there. I was the guy that said, go out and get Baker. I was the guy when Baker Mayfield was getting batted around, said, bring him to Vegas instead of Jimmy Garoppolo. I did it as closely as I could without crossing the line, without hitting the barbed wire. I thought Baker Mayfield was too valuable to pass on, too cheap of a price. And now Baker Mayfield's in a position now where his contract's getting redone and Baker Mayfield's getting big money, and he will be the next level of Kirk Cousins. It's a good analogy of Kirk Cousins being the first to be guaranteed $84 million. Baker just got a new $30 million, and he keeps cranking the money out. Mayfield was entering the second year of a 3-year deal, entering year 2, 3-year, $100 million with incentives. And that pushed the deal to $115 million because they know they got their guy. He's a former Heisman Trophy winner, #1 pick overall. He went to where most quarterbacks go to die in Cleveland. He got out of there, he matured, and he turned it around. In 2024, 41 touchdown passes, tied for second most in the NFL. 4,500 yards, 71.4% of his passes, both third most in the league. And he was right there for everybody to sign him. All around, all the NFL teams that needed a quarterback who passed on Baker Mayfield is laughing at all those teams that passed on him because he's legit and one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Yeah. What's that?
I had to get your potato.
Yeah. Deshawn. Not Tayshawn, Deshawn. All right, we're going to keep you here for Deshawn Reed, Raider Insider next, and we'll go from here. Terry McLaurin reports to camp, but he will not practice. He shouldn't. He's making $18 million. He should be making $35, $40 million. No, I'd say 30, 35. Oh, the only question I have, will I get a nap today before the night show? Bobby, you're laughing. I'm assuming there's no nap for you today. What do you have today? Aviators?
No. I just got a bunch of shit at the house.
Yeah, this is what they give us every day, the roster. The roster. Oh. Low. Yeah, a lot of people are asking about Jamal Adams, that will linebacker. Look, he's not a linebacker. He's a safety. He's not a linebacker. Can he play and tackle in that space? Yeah. But they got plenty of linebackers there who are real linebackers. We got the Patrick Graham. How long is that? I want to play that.
Oh. 907.
Man, I got a tight haircut, man. Really tight. My wife says, I don't remember you getting a haircut that short. And I said, yeah, I did. I got a short haircut. Should last a while. Here's a good chat topic. What do you guys pay for a haircut? What do you pay for a haircut? Okay. I'm asking, what is the going rate for a haircut at a barbershop, your local stylist? I go to a cool Raider barbershop, and, you know.
I would figure $20 at Sports Clips is pretty much the average.
Yeah, a lot of people don't want to go to Sports Clips. They got their own guy. What price you pay? My haircut is $45 before tip, and I tip $10. I'm not tipping $50. So 45 plus 10, 55. You know, it used to be 40. Tip 10, it was 50. What are you guys paying for a haircut? Anybody? Yeah.
Hey, Deshawn, this is Bobby with JT the Brick. How you doing? Doing all right. I'll get up with JT. Give me about a minute and a half.
Christopher says 50. I'm not using chloroseptic.
If you get injured in an accident, call 702-222-9999.
Probably location. Probably just making sure you're not giving them free yards where if you pop it to them on the 10-yard line, we're starting when they catch the ball. And so if you give them 10 extra yards where they're just starting at the 10-yard line instead of the goal line, that's a huge, that's kind of the hang time equation nowadays. So, at a certain point, it's location on where the ball is placed, whether it's the corners, the middle, deep, short, whatever it is, you got to kind of be more precise nowadays.
Daniel Carlson, and I hope the kicking game matters this year on the kickoff. It was highly overrated last year at camp. We were so nervous. We had to learn the new rules. Oh, my God, what could happen? And nothing happened all year. I thought it was the most overrated play in football. This year, I think it's going to get much more unique. I can't wait to see how the Raiders take advantage of it. I saw Deshawn Reed at every practice. He's got a great piece out at The Athletic. Eric Allen produced a Canton-worthy prime with the Eagles, but he believes it was his run with the Raiders that displayed the longevity necessary to punch his ticket to the Hall of Fame. I hope everybody can see this as Deshawn Reed joins us. A nice piece you put together, man. Well done here on someone we all care about, in Eric Allen.
Appreciate that, man. It was a big week for him. He had a long wait to get into Canton, but like I said in the story, talking to him, he felt like, obviously his prime was with the Eagles for sure. I mean, he made several All-Pro teams, Pro Bowls, et cetera. But it was that, later stage of his career with the Raiders, kind of those early 2000s, late 90s teams where, he was out there with Charles Woodson and others on that defense and helped to make a playoff run. He feels like that, really sort of stamped him and gave him the longevity he needed, to ultimately get into Canton this weekend.
Yeah, 100%. When you said that, because there are so many players, Deshawn, that can't get into the Hall of Fame because they don't have the longevity piece. And that helped him get to 54 career interceptions. And a lot of them were at the end of his career with the Raiders. I mean, I looked at Rod Woodson's career. There was a video out of him of all the interceptions he had. He was already a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion, when he came to the Raiders after the Steelers and the Ravens Super Bowl run. But Eric needed some productivity, and the Raiders gave him an opportunity to make a lot of big plays, and he stepped up and did that.
Yeah, and that was after starting his career with the Saints. It didn't go so well. The team was doing pretty poorly. He didn't have the same production he had with the Eagles, and so if that had been it for him, he threatened to actually retire, if the Saints weren't going to trade him to another team and allow him to play elsewhere. And if that had been the end of his career, he most likely wouldn't be, get into the Hall of Fame this weekend. So, the Raiders have a long history of having guys come that maybe had a lapse in their career or they weren't as good as they were in their prime, and they sort of rediscovered themselves at the tail end, and he was another one of those guys.
Yeah, and then Eric's had, a bunch of chapters in his life as a football player, as a broadcaster, and then the access that he has to the team here in Las Vegas and his ability to teach and break down film and do that. There's not a lot of people still left in the media. You look at the landscape of ESPN and, Fox and all that. There's not many guys who are still his age that can kind of paint a picture and back it up and have that gold jacket with it and handle a lot of media roles.
Yeah, and all these former great players know football, obviously, but it's one thing to know it and another thing to be able to communicate it in a digestible way where, the average guy that has a 9-to-5 job can tune in and not be lost about what you're talking about, right? And so there's a skill to that, and also just being entertaining, because nobody wants to, hear a textbook talking to them to sort of drown them in information. I think he's done a really good job, post-career, sort of, keeping himself relevant, whether it's on camera, on the radio with you. And so it's been cool to see him, because he's a fan of the game first and foremost. And I'm sure for him, a lot of it is, as much as it is a job, it's just another way to stay around the game and continue to see it, moving forward in the years to come.
Deshawn Reed is our guest. His new observation from day 5 of Raiders training camp is out right now. You can find it on his social media. Without giving us everything, because we want everybody to read about it, were you impressed today? Because as I was talking to you, I've seen more physical padded practices. I felt like today there was good physicality, but more padded practices down the road is when maybe a couple of anger issues, players on players, are going to get a little bit more chippy than what we saw today.
Yeah, it was good to see some physicality out there. I mean, that first week of training camp is basically extended OTAs, right? And so, guys are running out there in shorts, and they're still doing valuable work when it comes to installing the systems on both sides of the ball and whatnot, and working on their fundamentals. But, especially for offensive and defensive linemen, this is really the first day where you can actually see, where those both sides of those balls stand. And, I think the offensive line held up pretty well throughout practice, during team drills. I believe I only saw one sack, at least with the starters out there, when Geno Smith, got quote-unquote sacked by Max Crosby. Obviously, there's no actual contact. So I thought the offensive line held up pretty well. And we saw a couple, flash plays out there. Dante Thornton had probably the play of the day, getting open on the 65-yarder downfield. But there's some other guys. Mark Bowers made an over-the-shoulder catch for a first down. You saw some of those sort of highlight-worthy plays from the offense, but I think on a play-by-play basis, it was pretty balanced. The defense made some plays as well. I saw Jaquarian Bennett towards the end of the practice. Geno tried another deep shot, and he managed to get his hand in there and knock the ball loose at the last second. So it wasn't like the offense was just running up the score out there. Like, obviously, they did have those big chunk plays, and that's what's going to get the most traction on social media, because that's what gets people excited this time of year. But the defense held their own as well. And so I would say it was a pretty competitive, first practice in pads, and we'll see how it goes the rest of this week.
As we wrap this up, you and I had a conversation today about Jaquarian Bennett and the depth on the cornerback position, about his length or lack of length compared to some of the other guys. And I just assume that if he's healthy and what he's done in the past, he would be penciled in as number 1. But I could be wrong on that. I'd like your opinion. And then on the other side, Darian Porter just never played a play in the NFL. So I don't know how long it's going to take for him to come along. And then some of the older cornerbacks that were brought in. Can you give me your idea as of today? And I know it'll change on the depth chart of the cornerback position.
Yeah, so since OTAs, I would say the most first team reps have gone to Eric Stokes, veteran they signed this offseason from the Green Bay Packers. And then it's been Darian Porter out there, mostly with him. But, I think it's a fluid situation. Since training camp has started, we've seen more of DeCamerion Richardson, who was really thrust into the fire last year, wasn't really expected to play, but due to injury, they pretty much had to throw him out there. And it was a trial by fire. He had some struggles as a rookie, but he seems more comfortable out there so far. Today, during red zone drills, he had a play where Smith was trying to hit Trey Tucker in the back of the end zone, and DCAM read it and jumped it and picked it off in the back of the end zone for interception. And so he's made some progress. And those 3 guys, I would say Stokes, Porter, and Richardson, they have that sort of prototypical Pete Carroll makeup that he looks for in cornerbacks. So they're all like 6'3", 6'2". They're long. They have 4'3", 4'4" speed. That's what he looks for, right? That's his preference. And Bennett, even though I would say he played the best when healthy last season amongst those guys that had already been in the league, and Stokes and Richardson, The big question mark with him is, can he stay healthy? Both of his first 2 years in the league, he got hurt. He is a little bit shorter. He's about 5'10" or so, give or take. And so he's fast, though. He has that 4.3 speed, and he's really athletic. So he does have some of those traits that Pete Carroll likes. And so I don't think he's out of the mix by any means. But it definitely, I would say I had your mindset coming into OTAs. I thought he'd be pretty much a lock as a starter.
Right.
But that's clearly not the case. He's going to have to compete and earn it if he's going to end up being a starter again on week 1.
Deshawn Reed, as we wrap it up. So your impression of this compared to the early days in Costa Mesa? I mean, AP was good to both of us, and the weather was great. It hasn't been super hot here yet, but the players had to get on a bus from the West End and get there. And their locker room isn't 10 feet away like it is here. Just different overall with everything that went into that, and the fact that the players are just not with their families. The veterans are driving in. They're there. It seems to be much easier, smoother. Camps running offensively much sharper. What are some of your takeaways, first padded practice compared to Costa Mesa a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, they have all their facilities here, obviously. Like, they put a lot of money into making that site that they were at in Costa Mesa fit for what they needed to do, but it doesn't compare, clearly to the facility here in Las Vegas. And as you said, it really hasn't been as hot of a summer in Vegas as it usually is, and especially with them practicing at 8:30 in the morning early. They've sort of been able to beat the heat for the most part. It's not cool or anything of that nature, but it's not as bad as it typically is. So they've kind of escaped that downside of it. And there really is the only downside of having a training camp here in Vegas for the guys, between the facility, the practice fields, like you said, having a family around, being able to go home to their actual houses and apartments at the end of the day. This is more convenient for the guys overall, and it helps the overall operation. And I think, especially having a first-year regime, obviously there's coaches and front office members who've been here in years past, but for Pete Carroll and John Spytek, their first year here in Las Vegas, I think it's just cleaner for them overall to do it this way. I still think the door's open for them to go elsewhere in the future. That's something that we'll see, if there's any developments from that standpoint in the offseason. I don't think they're necessarily tethered to always doing training camp here in Las Vegas, but it's definitely not a bad place to be.
Deshawn, look forward to talking to you throughout the season. Great work on that Eric Allen column. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate that, man. Thanks for having me.
You got it, Deshawn Reed. Good to have him on as we continue here. I like that. He's a really good grinding reporter, puts out a lot of content. And then it popped up on my feed, Eric Allen. I said, I want to read that. And he really did a nice deep dive on EA. And I think anybody who reads that will appreciate that. We will have a Best of Eric Allen hour coming up on Friday, as I'm in Canton on Thursday. Vince Sapienza's in for me Thursday. Friday, we'll be on the ground for the gold jacket ceremony up there in Canton, and then we'll be back here on Monday. Patrick Graham on Sunday spoke to the media. I didn't hear it. I think he's really important with the scheme of this defense. Let's hear what he had to say.
It sure looks like Malcolm is moving like the Malcolm of old for you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm done. How long was that? An hour and 36 minutes. An hour and 36 minutes of me with you. You with me. YouTube, please subscribe. Hit subscribe. We got to get to 10,000. We're getting close. Help me out. Send it to a friend. Let's get to the number. Appreciate you. Mad Dog tonight, 7 p.m. Pacific. Sirius XM 82.